In the heart of San Francisco, amidst the endless river of traffic and the symphony of city life, Elara Vance was meticulously building a world. Her apartment, a cramped space in a perpetually shadowed alley, had become a digital forge. Here, fueled by lukewarm coffee and the relentless pressure of a looming deadline for a prestigious indie game competition, she was breathing life into her creation, line by painstaking line of code. It was called The Saga of Aethelgard, a sprawling fantasy RPG that had consumed the last 4 years of her life. It was more than just a game, it was her magnum opus, a vessel for all her dreams, her fears, and her fiercely guarded heart. Every pixel, every line of dialogue, every branching narrative path was a piece of her soul, rendered in bytes and algorithms. But a phantom haunted her creation, a ghost in the machine that defied all logic. A recurring, insidious bug was corrupting the core of her narrative, twisting a story of loyalty into one of betrayal. It was a bitter irony, a digital echo of a wound she thought she had buried, now tangled in the very code she was writing. The memory of her former partner, who had stolen their last project and her trust along with it, was now a virus in her masterpiece. The walls of her apartment began to feel like they were closing in, the hum of the servers a mocking whisper of her failure. She needed air, a tangible reality to cling to. She needed to escape the suffocating echo chamber of her own mind. The fog-kissed streets of the city, shrouded in their cool gray embrace, called to her like a siren song. Her wandering feet led her to the hushed, sacred halls of the university library. It was a sanctuary, a place where the rich, earthy scent of old paper and worn leather could overpower the sterile, metallic hum of her hard drives. Here, stories were bound and tangible, their weight a comforting anchor in the chaotic sea of her digital world. She pulled a heavy, leather-bound tome from a shelf, its pages brittle with age. It was an atlas of medieval cartography. She traced the faded, intricate lines of a forgotten kingdom with her fingertip, losing herself in a world meticulously built by hands, long since turned to dust. For a few precious moments, she wasn't a programmer debugging a broken world, but an explorer discovering a new one. A low, resonant voice, smooth as velvet, spoke beside her, pulling her from her reverie. The atlas of a world builder. The words were not just an observation, but a statement of understanding, a recognition of a kindred spirit. She turned, her heart giving a surprised flutter. The man's gaze was warm, intelligent, and deeply curious. He was handsome in a way that felt both classic and utterly modern, with kind eyes that seemed to see past her exhausted exterior and into the heart of the stories she was trying to tell. "Sorry?" Elara asked, her guard instinctively rising, a shield she had learned to wield well. "The book," he said, a slow, disarming smile spreading across his lips, crinkling the corners of his eyes. "You're not just reading. You're searching for something, a foundation. The bones of a world." His name was Julian. They talked for hours, their hushed whispers a secret, intricate melody in the grand cathedral of silence. He spoke of narrative structures, of the delicate balance between player agency and authorial intent, with a fiery passion that resonated in the deepest parts of her weary, creative soul. He understood. The grand library lights flickered once, then twice, a gentle, reluctant warning that their time in the shared sanctuary was coming to an end. "I don't want this conversation to be over," Julian said, his voice a low murmur that sent a shiver down her spine. "Coffee?" They walked through the damp, misty streets, the fog wrapping around them like a soft blanket, to a small, brightly lit cafe tucked away on a quiet side street. Over the comforting rim of her steaming coffee cup, Elara found herself telling him everything about the competition, the crushing pressure, the insidious bug she couldn't fix, the ghost of betrayal that haunted her code. He didn't offer easy, platitudinous solutions. Instead, he listened, truly listened, asking insightful questions that gently untangled the complex knots in her thinking. He helped her see the problem not as an insurmountable wall, but as a hidden door, a narrative puzzle waiting to be solved. Emboldened by his understanding, she even told him about the betrayal, the partner who had taken their shared world, their shared dream, and claimed it as his own, leaving her with nothing but the ashes of their collaboration. "It's hard to trust someone with your heart," she confessed, her voice barely a whisper, "when it's made of the same fragile stuff as your work." In return, Julian spoke of his own creative battles, the solitary, often maddening pursuit of the perfect sentence, the right turn of phrase. He was vague about the specifics of his projects, but his passion, his struggle, was a universal language she understood perfectly. He reached across the table and covered her hand with his, a simple gesture of profound comfort. When he walked her home through the misty, silent streets, the city lights seemed soft and haloed, painting the world in a dreamlike glow. The space between them was no longer just empty air. It was charged with an unspoken, palpable potential, a quiet hum of possibility. At her apartment door, the easy flow of conversation finally faded, replaced by a profound, resounding silence. It was a silence filled with questions, with hesitation, with the magnetic pull of unspoken desire. He looked at her, his gaze warm and searching, tracing the curve of her lips as if memorizing them. "Good night, Elara," he said softly, his voice a gentle caress in the quiet night. He didn't lean in for a kiss, a gesture of respect that she appreciated more than he could know. Instead, he simply wrote his number on a slip of paper from his wallet and pressed it into her hand. "In case you want to continue the conversation." Alone in her apartment, the silence no longer felt oppressive. She was buzzing with a feeling she thought she had lost for good, a fragile, tentative flicker of hope. She looked at her monitors, at the tangled, hostile lines of code, and for the first time in weeks, she felt a surge of inspiration. She saw the bug not as a flaw, but as a feature, a new path for her story to take. The next few days were a delightful cascade of messages. Witty, playful banter, links to obscure articles on narrative theory, shared songs that seemed to speak the words they couldn't yet say. It was a modern courtship, played out on the glowing screens of their phones, and she found herself smiling at her phone like a giddy teenager. He asked her out again, not to a library or a cafe, but to the Conservatory of Flowers, a magnificent glass palace filled with a world made not of code or ink, but of living, breathing, vibrant things. It was an oasis of life in the heart of the city. Surrounded by the humid, fragrant air and the breathtaking riot of color, she felt the last of her carefully constructed defenses melt away like morning mist. He took her hand, and his fingers laced through hers as if they had always been meant to be there, a perfect, comfortable fit. When he walked her to her door this time, the silence that fell between them was different. It wasn't a question, but a quiet, certain answer. It was a silence that held the promise of a new beginning, a shared story waiting to be written. With a quiet, trembling sigh, she gave him the answer he was waiting for, her fingers curling into the soft fabric of his coat's lapel. The moment their lips met, it was not a desperate, hungry collision, but a slow, profound confirmation of everything that had passed between them. It was a kiss that tasted of old books, new beginnings, and the sweet promise of home. He followed her inside, and the vast, noisy world narrowed to the intimate space of her apartment. In the soft, warm lamplight of her living room, against the glowing backdrop of her unfinished digital world, they began to build a new one together, a fragile, breathtaking structure made of sighs and whispers, of gentle touches, and the frantic, beautiful, perfect rhythm of two hearts finally beating as one.